Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, I see it now.
All right. Okay, so thank you, Ibrahim, for the opportunity. And so basically the KCNA, I know the last session was on CKD. So KCNA is sort of the fundamental, basically testing your fundamental knowledge of Kubernetes. So it's basically multiple choice. It's a multiple choice exam. So unlike CKD where you would be asked to do some practicals, it's this one is multiple choice. So in some way you could say it might be a bit easier, because at least you see the options you have. And typically you'll be given 90 minutes for 60 questions and the pass mark is 75%. So basically it means you need to get about 45 out of 60 correct. All right. So the curriculum, if you check the official curriculum on the CNCF website, this is what you see. Almost half of it will be focusing on Kubernetes fundamentals, which I mentioned earlier. So the KCN is just to test your understanding of microservices, containers, Kubernetes, and the likes. So 46% will be coming from just Kubernetes fundamentals, Kubernetes resources, architecture, API container scheduling. Then 22% will be coming from container orchestration. Yeah, so you would need to also do a little study on container orchestration, container runtimes like Docker, Containerd, Creo, and all the likes, security, networking, service mesh, storage, and then we have cloud native architecture. And then the two smallest focus areas are the cloud native application delivery and the cloud native observability. So there'll be very few questions coming from there. All right. So I just did a little, I know you've gone through the course, so maybe some of the things I'll say are not really, might not, you probably already know most of them. So, but typically just to point out some of the knowledge that they're trying to test, which is your understanding of microservices. So you see questions on things like the differences between monolithic architecture and microservice architecture. So it's one focus area that you need to pay attention to. Um, so also, you would see some questions on the whole on VMs versus containers. What are the differences? What are container runtimes? How do you what can you need so you basically need to have an understanding of the structure of a container is, um, as compared to a virtual machine, right? So you need to understand the resource sharing for containers, um, and all the likes. Um, yeah. So let me moving on. So for Kubernetes resources, I basically listed out. So if you run this command kubectl API resources, I believe by now everyone here should have their own at least minikube environment. So you can just run this kubectl API resources there. It will bring out a list of all the Kubernetes API resources. So I just highlighted a few of them. These are not all. Just all this year are just a few of them. The ones I think you'd more than likely come across, at least more likely come across these ones than the rest. And the ones I put in bold are the ones that I feel are very important that you need to at least have an understanding of them. So you need to know what config map is, what's a namespace, nodes, persistent volume claims, PVs, pods, secrets, service accounts, and on and on. So like I said, since it's multiple choice, you need to have, um, you might not need to have maybe 100% in-depth understanding, or like for CKD where you'll be asked to actually implement something. So in that case, you need to know how to implement these things properly. But in this case, to be questions on, so it's advisable that you actually do practice these things. How to create them, how to manage them, how to edit some of them, because sometimes you see questions that they will give you multiple. They will tell you, they can say something like, which of these commands can you use to maybe edit the image in a pod, for instance. So you see some options. There will be rewrite, of course, the right command there, and then some wrong ones. I remember there were a couple of questions like that asking about the right command to do something. So that's why it's also good that you don't just know what they are, but you also know the commands to run them, you know. So so for such questions you'll be able to answer them. So you just make sure, I'm sure you've gone through the course. Just make sure that you go over all of the resources, particularly the ones in the course, because some of the ones I highlighted there, maybe I might have omitted some, and there might be some that are here that are not that relevant. But just make sure that some of these very important resources, you know how to at least create them, in some cases edit, delete, um yeah, so those simple basic commands for each of them. So um yeah, another thing you need to understand is the architecture, Kubernetes architecture as well. So the control plane, the data plane, what are the components of the control plane? What are the components of the data plane? Because you might get questions, even though it's a multiple choice, but okay, which of these is the job of a kubelet or a kube proxy or etcd? So you need to know what they do in order to be able to, answer such questions. So it's good, you need to have an understanding of um, all the components, just what they do. You don't need to be going too in depth, because if you take each of these components, you can actually go in depth into each of them, but you just need to know what they do, maybe just a little bit of what they do, right? So for control plane, you have the API server, the etc, the scheduler, controller manager, and then we have cloud controller manager, because primarily because most of the um, Kubernetes clusters that we have nowadays are cloud, hosted on the cloud. So the cloud container manager is basically to manage those cloud resources. Maybe you want to create a load balancer on the cloud. It's cloud control manager that handles um, such, that manages those sort of resources. And then we have the data plane, the kubelets, kube proxy, and then we have the container runtime. So you need to know what do these things do, what are they used, what's their job on the um, cluster. All right. So here I just picked out some of the things. So for container runtimes, I think the three major container runtimes: Docker, Containerd, Creo. There might be more on your, if you go through the, if, after going through the KCNA course, there might be some more that they mentioned there, but I'm pretty sure they would have mentioned these three, because I remember questions do come out from these three. So you need to know the differences. You need to know, um, you just take some time to read up on each of them, because if I remember that I did see some questions on this particularly. So container runtimes, you need to understand what they are, why are they there, what they do, and then for each of them you can read up on peculiarities on each of these container runtimes. Of course, services on Kubernetes. So the different types of services that we have. And remember, I mentioned that for these resources as well, try to know try to practice or creating them, try to practice working with them, because that's how you get familiar with the commands to run them. So clustered IP, the difference between cluster IP and node ports and load balancer service, so you just try and read up on those as well. And then, of course, security, I put struct slash RBAC. So we have service accounts, roles, role bindings, cluster roles, cluster role bindings. So what are these? What are roles? What's the difference between roles and and cluster roles, role bindings and cluster role bindings? So you need to also take some time out to read up on this as well. Um, Storage with the volumes, volume mounts, persistent volume claims. So why do we use persistent volumes? What's the difference, or why do we use persistent volumes in your container, right? So you want to, like the name, the persistent volume that's persists. So maybe you need to, your application would be using maybe some files of some contents that you want to outlast the lifespan of that of a pod. So you need to put them, because the volumes, the default volumes, the volumes in a pod, if the pod dies, it's basically goes dies with it. But when you have a persistent volume mounted on the pod, even if the pod dies, you can create a new pod and mount that persistent volume to the same pod. And then, so why are they used and how to also create them? Some others I put here: auto scaling, rolling updates, um, scheduling. How does the scheduler work? If you create deployments, for instance, you see things like um, required when forgetting what. So basically, for how does the scheduler work? How does it schedule ports in nodes? That's where you come into things like taints and tolerations, node affinities. So the whole scheduling landscape, how does it work, right? And then I also added observability, service mesh. So there's some things I didn't add here that if you go back to the curriculum, they're actually there, like CI/CD, GitOps, application delivery fundamentals, telemetry. Okay, I added observability. So, but I believe that the course would have touched on all these things. The course you've done would have touched on all these things. So just make sure that you go over these sessions again. Although, like I said, your you should spend more time with the parts that carry more weight, right? Even your study time, try to focus more on Kubernetes fundamentals and container orchestration, cloud native architecture. So give more time to based on the weights of the questions, right? Because I mean that's a sensible thing to do, right? So that you don't focus so much on cloud native observability, for instance, and you still have some topics to brush up on Kubernetes fundamentals. So you might get to exam and see only maybe 2 questions from here or 3 questions from here, and you have like, I don't know, 25, 30 questions from here. So just make sure that you also maximize your study time to focus on the areas that are carry the most weight. Right. Go back. I think that was the last slide I had. So the final tips, other tips that I added here: join early and check your equipment extensively. So one thing, if you're someone that writes all these exams frequently, online exams, sometimes, you know, they always tell you to test your equipment before the day of the exam or before the time of the exam, because you never know, something could come up. Maybe you're trying to, maybe during the verification process, you're trying to connect your system, and for some reason something is holding it up. I remember there was an exam I wanted to write some time ago, and I needed to start I needed to open Task Manager, to start closing some services that were running. They were not even services that you'd see typically when you open them. They were like underground services that were not allowing the browser for the exam to come up. So it's very good to test immediately you see an email, maybe to test your equipment, test your laptop, test your speaker, test your internet. Make sure you do that, because if you wait till that day and anything happens, it might throw you off. Maybe in trying to try to fix it because of the time. Once they give you a particular time to start the exam, oftentimes they might give you maybe 30 minutes to start. If within that time you don't start, they might cancel the exam. So in a bit to trying to rush and fix whatever you need to fix, you might, let's say you're able to fix it, but you've already put yourself under, you're already anxious, you're already have a level of anxiety that might affect your performance in the exam. So it's always good to make sure that you're calm, because sometimes you may have read something and when you're trying to now remember it during the exam, you've forgotten because of anxiety and pressure. So try to make sure that you set up everything, you're ready on the day. You maybe 30 minutes before time, you're ready, connected, and you're waiting, right? And so here I also added to dedicate time to get hands-on with all these basic Kubernetes commands, because they do ask questions on some of these commands. I think I mentioned those earlier. They do ask questions. Um, and dedicate time for practice questions and mock exams as well. So I don't know if the course you're doing, if they have mock exams, but sometimes these courses they do provide mock exams. So if they do, try and make sure you practice those. They will help you, give you that feeling, that exam feeling, and you can judge where you are at as regards to preparation. So you can also, if you go online as well, I think if you go online as well, you can get resources. For example, for me personally, when I'm preparing for things like that, I go on YouTube, I try to look for videos on a particular exam, how to prepare for the exam, or sample questions I can see. I go on YouTube, even GitHub, you can see such things on GitHub as well. So do a lot of research online to find, not just for KCNA, even for CKD. I remember this when I did my CKD as well. I actually got a GitHub um repo that had a lot of practice questions, and it broke the practice questions based on the sections for the exam. So I was just using that to practice. So you can find something like that for this sort of exams. YouTube, GitHub, of course, Kubernetes docs as well, Docker docs, Container D docs, all of these resources you need to prepare on. It's always good to, if you have questions, you don't understand something, you can go to the docs as well, and to help clarify some of these questions that you may have. Paid resources too, if you have the money, you can pay for some resources. There are some paid resources online to the maybe, for example, practice questions, study materials. There are some paid resources out there, but more often than not, you may not need, particularly for this exam. It's like I said, it's a fundamentals exam and it's multiple choice. Once you cover your basics, you should be fine. And then, so I put this here example. So this video is actually an old video, but I think it will still help. I usually also use um, free code camp for some of these exams as well. They do cover preparation for some exams, so you can look for materials. Like I said, I mean, you can get materials on the internet, a whole lot of materials. So those would help as well. So that's all I had. I don't know if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Gideon. This is really interesting. Before I open floor for Q&A, the specific GitHub account or GitHub page that contains questions for CKD, I would like if you can share that with me so
Okay.
that I can compile it together and share with the participants. So please, it's time for Q&A. Ask your questions. We have like less than 4 minutes. Don't have any questions? Any question? You are good to go? I think so. I think you are all good to go. So, which means that she will score 100 in our exam. So, thank you so much, Gideon. It seems your presentation is really interesting. You covered a lot. So, if you have any issue or any request, we'll still be reaching out to you. So, I think they are just waiting for their vouchers. So I will take up the presentation from here. So I'll give you feel free to drop off if you still want to do some other things.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much. I will reach out to you. Yeah, thank you.
Can we get that the document that was being shared? Hello.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can pass it along
Okay.
to Brian.
Yep. So you can get it, Saga.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So now you've listened to Gideon and to Manny. So I would like us to reflect now, and maybe on the chat box, just answer this question from what they've said, and from the course that you've completed. Sincerely, are you sure you are ready for the exam now, like tomorrow, or you still need to refresh? So I'm ready for the exam. Yes, put on the chat box. I'm not ready. I need a week to prepare. No, put it on the chat box. So I'm waiting for responses. I'm ready for the exam. Yes or no on the chat box. At least we've listened to both of them, so we know we are able to compare what we learned in the course to what they are saying, like what the real exam look like. Do we need more practice? Do we need to do some further research on our own, like a build up onto the course that we've completed? So it's not compulsory that you have your license now. Your license is there. So once you are ready, I'll just give it to you. Since you've completed the course, that is uh, a pass mark or a prerequisite to get the voucher. So you have your voucher with me. So just tell me, okay, I think I'll be ready in the next 1 week, in the next 2 weeks. I need to prepare more so that we can pass. So it's better to take time to prepare and pass than to rush and fail. So we want to have as many of you as possible to pass the exam. So because of that, I have my talk here. So what next after this presentation? So go through prep resources. I have some resources I'm compiling, so I'm going to share that with all of you tomorrow. I will also liaise with Gideon and Manny to maybe share some resources that we've used in the past so that I can compile it together as well and give it to you. So once you've gone through the prep resources and you feel prep resources include maybe some readings, refreshing the course that you've done, and also practicing a lot of questions, like similar questions, simulated questions that will likely come out in the exam. So once you feel that you're comfortable, then you have what you confirm your readiness. So I'm going to share a form just to tell me, okay, I think I'm ready now. And then you fill that form, you state the date that you would like to take the exam, and then you notify me on Andela chat that, okay, I filled the form, I think I'm ready. I'm going to share your voucher with you on Andela chat like we did for the training course. So I will just put my hand, be praying for you, and be expecting your congratulatory message that, okay, I've passed the exam. And all of this, it depends solely on you. We are not rushing you, but according to the plan, the timeline of the program, you know that you still have like 4 weeks before the end of the program. So if you want to take the entire 4 weeks to prepare, to practice, no problem. You have your voucher already since you've completed the course. And if you know that, okay, I think I'm ready now, I can take the exam tomorrow or tonight, no problem as well. So I just want us to be sincere with ourselves so that we get the best out of this program. So completing the course is one thing, passing the certification is another thing, and also being able to put all the learnings into use is another thing. So we don't want you to leave any stone unturned in each of these three buckets. So we want you to do your best and get certified, because that is what we will be rated on. So with this, just only one person responded to my question. So doesn't mean that all of us we are yes, we are ready. So I'm going to share resources with you tomorrow, and also send that form. I will put some dates there, like for the next 4 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, like specific dates. I'm going to put it there, and so based on your responses, or if you reach out to me on Andela chat, we can discuss better. But if you know that you are ready, then I'm going to confirm from the form. So that is what I have to say after this presentation. So let me know what your opinion is about what I just said now. Any comments? Are we good with my approach? Hello? Oh, great.
Okay. So I have a question.
Okay.
What was
Go ahead.
so the program, right, spans over a couple of weeks, right?
Yes.
So what's the rationale for you wanting people to tell you specifically when they want to like write the exams? Is there like a specific rationale?
So that I can be following up. So I have to categorize people, okay, into this bucket. Yes, for this week, I think I'm expecting 4 people to take the exam. So I know that, okay, these 4 people, I have to be on them. Okay, please, I hope you are doing great. So and after the exam, please, how did you do? Share your batch with me so that we can track that and report it. Because Linux Foundation, who partner with us to do this program, we want to see the sources. We want to know the status of the participants.
Oh, okay. And one more thing. So from what you just talked about, right, you are going to share a form for us to, let's say, ascertain our readiness, tell you specifically when you are going to take the exams.
Yes.
Does it mean when we fill the form, you will reach out, or we still need to like reach out to you after we've?
I reach out to you. Reach out to you on the chat.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other question? I think we are all aligned, so we are good. So I think all what we are doing is just to ensure that we get the best out of this program. It's not that we just want to finish the course and just check it like a checklist. So we want to ensure that you get the best out of it, and that's why we organize this session. So in the next 2-3 weeks or 4 weeks, we are going to do this same session again, where we have some people. By that time, I'm sure we have more people who have completed and joined the session so that they can benefit from it. So maybe by that time, I'm sure most of you have completed the form and maybe confirm your readiness after you've gone through the resources and know that, okay, you are comfortable now, you can pass the exam. So I think we are going to be doing it on a rolling basis. It's not that, okay, everybody will do it at the same time. No, on a rolling basis, as you are ready in terms of preparation, then you get your voucher. And because the voucher are just ready, they are just ready. They are not sourcing for it. They are ready for you. And we've mapped it against each person that have completed name. So you have map each voucher to your name since you've completed. So just free your mind, no issue. Just continue to prepare. And when you notice that, okay, I'm comfortable, I can pass the exam now, then we give you the voucher. So thank you so much. Any other questions? I think we've gone 6 minutes behind the schedule, above the scheduled time. So any other questions? If there are no questions, I would like to bring this session to an end. And then tomorrow, expect my message, email, and with containing resources and the readiness form. Thank you so much for your time. But if you have any questions, any concern, please just drop a message for me on Andela chats. I'm going to respond. Yep. Bye-bye, everyone. Sorry for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, team. Have a nice day. Bye.